And hello, everybody. This is George the Hulk here. Gonna talk, coming off the top of the Galactic Championships, where the Boston Network came out and represented. Two in the top four. Me and Big O at 9 and 11, all with the breakout deck of the tournament, Kylo 5 Tarkintown. So, uh, in this series, I like to break down why this leader-based combination, how the deck is built this way, how we took a pile of a bunch of two costs, a bunch of upgrades, and melded them all together into a lean, mean, galactic, almost winning machine. So, you'll see I'm rocking my lab coat and my goggles because I'm hyped. I'm getting hyped for Cardboard Chefs, new show we're coming out with me and Ian Lego Pizza, where we deck build on the fly with secret ingredients. Stay tuned to this channel to see that, and you'll hear more insight of our deck building process while we're making a fun little game show out of it. So that'll be in the near future. For this deck, let's get our goggles on. We're going in. Uh, Kylo 5. Why are we playing Kylo? We're not done yet. Uh, Deck velocity, right? This is a theme all throughout this deck, and what makes this engine work. How are we playing only 3/6 draws? The only 4 or 5 cost unit is going to be Long Pike. Like, how are we getting from here? Question mark, question mark, question mark, to I swing with Kylo and win. It's because we see more of our deck. Um, Typical Star Wars limited decks, you have your 12 openers, you have all your 12 turn twos, and then you start going lower and lower as you go up the resource curve because you've seen more cards in your deck. You don't need to have as many copies to see them consistently. We can shave that even more. We can fit even more stuff into this type package because Kylo doesn't draw 2 cards; he draws 3 cards a turn. So this deck is going to see the 3 copies of Anakin more. You ask any force throw deck who saw the most force throws, it's gonna be us because we're digging through our deck faster. Uh, Also, you'll see lots of people build this deck with like a sort of control bent. Like I think lots of people saw the Sith Holocron. That's 3 damage for 1 resource on the Kylo flip turn. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of like level 1, right? But then they try and put it in like a Bosk Blue sort of shell with like lots of control. Uh, We've tried it. I even almost last minute pivoted to it right before the Galactic Championship. Whoa! So just because I had this like moment of like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're overcomplicating things. What if we just run Super Laser Blast and go even bigger? What if instead of these like 13 damage and 11 damage Kylo flips, we're having 15, 18 damage, and we're just punch after a Super Laser Blast because the board is clear. You're giving your opponent more time to find their answers, more time to threaten you, more stress on your own card advantage, because remember, this cost curve is kept very low, mostly to counter force throw, but it's what we're doing anyway. And also to have a powerful flip turn, because we're using the card advantage of Kylo. So you have that internal struggle there. But also, turns out in a game when the goal is to deal 25 to 33 damage to your opponent's base, the difference between attacking for 15 damage with a 15/15, attacking for 13 damage, not the biggest deal. Obviously, 1 hit point is the difference between life and death, but when it comes to our macro game plan, 2 turns is a very long time. A lot can go wrong in 2 turns. So, uh, yeah, steer away from the hard control version, not only because of that, but also because the primary goal of hard control decks is to manipulate uh, exhausted and readied units. So, units in this game, they come into play exhausted and then they're ready. The control player's goal is to take that unit you invested in, you're expecting to get damage out of, boom, remove the unit, you get no damage. I preserve my life total to get into later stages of the game. This doesn't work if you don't have initiative. And why you might be saying, why doesn't everyone play this high velocity playstyle so you can do all this cool things with deck building? Well, it's because this takes an action. Um, why you want to be on Tarkintown and not the Force Base, not Thermal Oscillator, not um, Red 30, is because you get to take two, maybe three actions on your first turn of the game. You don't get punished for it. You're killing almost every play that your opponent's doing. So, Migs Mayfield, the man, the myth, and the legend. When you turn your leader ability into deal 2 damage to a unit, and you immediately remove it while developing a unit that you can upgrade, it's crazy. It can snowball super hard if your opponent's not prepared for it. This thing gets ECLs out of Sabines. It makes your opponent play Daring Great on turn one. He does crazy things. Um, Even just boring, he can just threaten 4 damage to base. You just attack base and also ping. Yeah, no, super flexible, super strong card, absolutely linchpin in the deck. But right behind him is the underrated, the underdog, Witch of the Mist. So, Witch of the Mist enables the number one play pattern is going to be Witch of the Mist on turn one with a force throw to get that ping damage. Boom, Tarkintown. Now you have a platform for your various upgrades to start swinging. Uh, an important part of the game is making sure all of your cards are modular. So the more uses and more situations that a card becomes useful in, the better. So this is not just a turn one play with force throw. It's also a curve filler on turn two with a 2+1. It's also power dark side fodder. It's also a force unit that has hidden that can't be attacked to enable your force lightnings and force throws in the mid game. So lots of utility there, or even just boringly, you can just Witch of the Mist plus Fallen Lightsaber on 4 resources, right? Uh, it's a three. It's a one cost unit. Most one cost unit would just get value traded, and you'd be down a card. But because of hidden, good to go. All right. So, uh, yeah, because we have these opening sequences to review, because we have these opening sequences with Tarkintown that allows us to kill our opponent's units before they're ready. Now we can go into turn two and future turn cycles, playing removal like Power Dark Side, like Force Lightning, killing our opponent's units, and still rummaging constantly, finding the pieces of the puzzle we need. So let's talk about one of the most important ratios of the deck. Oh, a quick note on openers. Um, while these two are the ones that let you defeat your opponent's unit without initiative, when you have initiative, the door is wide open, right? You have Karis into Force Lightning, into attack Karis into your, Force Lightning, kill your opponent's turn one as a fancy open fire with good art, and then attack into their turn two in Tarkintown. You have Power the Dark Side, kill their unit, attack into their unit, and then Tarkintown. Like lots of ways that aren't. This isn't just a one trick pony. Every road leads to kill both your opponent's turn one and still have a board. That's objective number one of the early game. And it allows us to snowball. Okay. So upgrades, people. How are we doing? What are we doing here? We've got 19 upgrades, a third of our deck. That's crazy. What if I just draw upgrades or I draw no upgrades? Does the deck function? All these sorts of things. All these sorts of fun questions. Okay. So how do we land on 19? Let's present the hypothesis. I want to Kylo ability every single turn. I draw 2 cards a turn. Should I have about 50% of my deck as upgrades? Oh my god, what kind of nightmares have you unleashed? Like, what if you draw only upgrades? You draw no units. Is this even functional? Do we need upgrades that are like also removal, like entrenched or perilous position to like make this work? Make this even simpler. Important part of the ratios of this deck is you have to remember Kylo draws you a card. So if you want the Kylo ability every turn, you see 3 cards a turn. You just need one of them to be an upgrade. If you go over your average, you draw a lot of upgrades. The most common flip turns are going to be 3 upgrades. It's going to be a 3 cost, a 1 cost, and a 3 cost. It's like your level 1. You're setting up a um, lightsaber plus Sith holocron plus snapshot, or a lightsaber plus Sith holocron plus another lightsaber, or a lightsaber plus a hotshot blaster plus snapshot. Like 3-1-3, that's your level 1. That's what you're setting up. Obviously, we want to be discarding more because we want to find Anakin. We want to find Lom Pike. These are important pieces of the puzzle. But it's not the end of the world. We really just need to discard 3 times, get those cards in discard. And of course, if we're playing the upgrades, depending on how this is matchup dependent how easily your opponent can take care of those units, how vulnerable they are. But throwing upgrades on units is absolutely a part of the game plan. If your opponent, doesn't matter if you discard them or if your opponent kills you with the upgrade, you're still getting that upgrade back. You're still getting that card advantage. So we landed on 19 upgrades. That gives us the number to very consistently see out of every 3 cards, we'll see 1 upgrade. So we can keep the engine going. You'll see Kylo greens. They'll go with much fewer upgrades. They typically have a 2 card flip, um, where they will play, craving power plus legal authority, devotion plus craving power, maybe Jedi lightsaber plus devotion, whatever. Uh, we want not only 3 cards, but typically 3 specific cards, and also we're leaning much harder into the ability to find certain pieces. Again, remember what I was saying earlier, deck velocity, it allows us to find the right cards for the right matchup, for the right puzzle, and to push the right pressure points. Speaking of pressure points, we're in a force throw meta. Force throws everywhere. People are calling for bans. It's the end of the world. Sparks are flying. Sparks of Rebellion are flying? Anyway. Uh, so one of the big selling points of this deck is the cost curve is crazy low. Force we have I think 21 cost cards. If they force throw us, they're probably dealing 1 damage, and they got a card out of their hand. We're happy about that. It doesn't kill anything we have. We're feeling great. But also, we want to force throw them. Not just force throw. We got pillage. Um, this was 2 of main deck. Some people had 3. Um, Pillage, again, you have to put your goggles on. It reads discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand. But when you have to think about the implications of the card. When you discard the last card in your opponent's hand, it changes the entire game. The entire game the entire game you're playing is warped. It has gone from you have these fairly low attack units. Maybe you upgrade them, but nothing too beefy, nothing too scary. You're leaning on your Kylo leader. It, but do they have an answer for your Kylo leader? It turns that game from, oh, they need to find that answer in the first 18 cards of their deck to once you pillage them, once you take that answer out of their hand, they need to find that in a 4-card window. And not only do you need to find that answer for your Kylo, but they also need to not resource it. So they have to resource the card that is not an answer for your Kylo, which makes their turns even more awkward. Boom, huge light bulb moment. Absolutely changes the matchup spread of this deck. It turned it from your average everyday like aggro deck to that has like a little bit of a combo finish to this is a deck that can beat into a wide variety of decks and that can stand up post hate. Things like aggravated parliamentarian, things like um, restock. Yeah, you can play these cards that have very little impact. You're actually playing into my game plan. My game plan is to make sure you don't have answers. I'm going to discard you with force throw, with pillage. Thanks for playing that 2 cost 2/2. My entire deck is upgrades. I'll find an upgrade in 2 turns. Um, yeah. So village. There was actually an argument in the little insight here. Uh, do we ever get rid of snapshot and lean harder in a discard. Go like triple pillage main, one snapshot. It's a very interesting discussion there. Um, because they kind of do the same thing, right? Well, snapshot says you cannot respond to my flip, and pillage says you won't be able to save the answer for the flip. Pillage is also part of one of the keys of pillage is the Motti combo. So this is the one that like wowed everyone on stage. Kylo's up against the wall. Massive board for Towson, for Bedden. How is he gonna pull it? What is this deck even doing? And suddenly our hero of the story, Admiral Motti, shows up and says, "Go get him, Kylo." Boom, boom. 24 damage in one turn. From 2 damage on the base to 2 damage from lethal. And the crowd goes wild. Um, that's one way to use Motti. But Motti has so many more uses. My favorite use in this deck, when you're flipping, a lot of times you'll ask yourself, is like, oh, is it worth it? Is it worth the risk of flipping? Um, and the sequence of I pillage your hand, the gates are open. Your opponent has no responses. They can't possibly have it. They do their thing. You play Kylo, Sith Holocron, attack, kill, Motti, 16 damage. Your opponent cannot respond to it. Very powerful. Now, this obviously has a surprise element. People are more prepared for Motti to play around them. They expect Motti now, so a little unfortunate. Against Towson, hoping that you're gonna be able to play a Motti. He's not just gonna die. Against Quinlan, hoping that the ping's not gonna get him. Yeah, it's a little ambitious now, but for Galactics, the element of surprise. Uh, yeah, and then for the events, Forest Lightning lets us do a really crazy thing with this deck. So remember I was talking about when you're building your resource curve, you have more stuff on the cheaper end of the spectrum because you're going to see less cards in your deck, and as you get more expensive, you can use less, give away less. So to hit 85, 95% chance of seeing these cards, which is the typical goal when we deck build, uh, you run more copies of this card. And it obviously creates pressures because if you run one copies of a certain cost curve, you have less copies on the cost curve. Force Lightning is every cost is perfect perfect value on every cost. Obviously, the bigger if you have a force unit out, but this can be an open fire, and it feels great. Sometimes it also hits a super laser attack, and you're feeling even better than open fire. Sometimes this is a rival's fall for 5 resources and kills their 3/7 leader. Sometimes it kills a Crate Dragon. You know, this gives you consistency, and then it goes up and down the resource curve very smoothly. Again, power to dark side. This is good. Every single part of the cost curve. This doesn't care if it's a 20/20, if it's a 2/2, if it's a quadruple shielded, doesn't matter. Power dark side, as long as they're alone and you're playing control, kills their unit. Perilous position. Uh, Partly to up our upgrade ratio. Partly this is just a crazy flexible card. Shields are a bit of a sticking point for the deck. We don't have as much blue removal as like in control deck would. Um, your takedowns and fell the dragons and such. So like shields can be a bit of a sticking point. So having something that gets through shields, think like, oh, your opponent ambushed with Dark Tyrannus and put a shield on. We have a 1 card answer for it. Your opponent plays a Secret of Sage on turn 1 card answer for it. Uh, Also, even late game, it has utility. Your opponent flips the leader as a 3/7, boom, exhausted. Your opponent pilots a leader, boom, exhausted. And now has less health, is vulnerable to cards like Anakin. So again, look at these cards. up and down the resource curve, they're very useful. Force throw, obviously we talked about within the context of discarding your opponent. You can't discard yourself in this. Our resource curve is so low. Keep in mind, this is a high deck velocity deck, not a high card advantage deck. We don't typically have a lot of cards in our hand, which is by design, right? Like we're expecting to go into a meta with a bunch of force throws and a bunch of discard. Um, we're not trying to combat it by investing a whole bunch into draw. We're combating it by developing stats ahead of curve, hitting your opponent, and then putting your opponent in a situation where they have all these cards, but they're dead because they can't stop Kylo. Um, yeah, that's the deck. Talk about Long Pike. Long Pike. I am not bashful. I absolutely love Smuggle. I like to call Smuggle card draw that you get that you don't have to pay for until you need it, and then in situations where you need it, it is above rate. Um, obviously, the utility of shielding up Kylo, shielding up, a ready unit so that way you can get an attack in. Um, absolutely tons of utility there. Uh, the fact that he is an effective card draw for one resource because his struggle cost is one more than his regular cost. Absolutely fantastic. Gives you a lot of security going into these force throw battles while you're throwing multiple cheap cards around. And Anakin Skywalker, the fact that first action you can turn off your opponent's aggression on the 6 resource turn, you can kill units, you can stop players from going wide. Um, yeah, absolutely incredible card. And with 5 attack and 7 health, dodging your opponent's Anakin's. Uh, yeah, oftentimes the pivot turn, if you're thinking like control player, you play Anakin, you flip Kylo, do the thing, you attack for 5, attack for 13, whatever, and now your opponent's in double check. Very textbook, very good. And rivals follow up here. Um, this is for your control heavy matchups, or decks that are very good at removing all your cheap force units. Keep in mind, our few force units are a bunch of 1 cost and 2 costs, and then Anakin. So if you need a force lightning, this is a pain point of the deck. So I actually went down to 2 force lightnings. I'm at 1 rivals fall. I love force lightning. I'm just to me that's like a nice little safety blanket. Being able to stop Kylo ECL, being able to stop like upgraded Boba pilots and Vader pilots, that sort of stuff, while not having a board is a recipe for success. Um, yeah, I think the final thing I'll talk about is the actual flip turn. So I mentioned earlier how level 1, the textbook is 3-1-3. Your lightsaber plus Sith holocron plus lightsaber, maybe Sith lightsaber plus Sith holocron plus snapshot. But this is so much deeper than that because you got Battle Fury. Battle Fury is there to enable the high rolls, and the reason we're in red is because red upgrades are the only aspect that has that offers upgrades that deal more damage than their cost. So no matter what combination you can think of, a blue green, a blue yellow, a double blue, they're gonna hit with 7 resources, 12 power on the Kylo flip. There's one exception. It's not an aspect; it's a neutral card. It is 4 damage for 3 resources. But that's not exciting. That's not what we're here. We're here to do unfair things in the lab. We create abominations. That's what we do. 3 damage for 1 resource for a cause. Eat your heart out. Got 3 damage for 1 resources. I'll deal 9 damage for 3 resources. Ooh, crazy. Um, yeah, Battle Fury enables the high rolls of double 1 cost. This could be Sith Holocron. This could be Hotshot Blaster. Also 2 damage for 1 resource, right behind Sith Holocron. but 2 of those plus Battle 3 plus a 3 cost, that could be Snapshot, that could be a lightsaber, but now you're hitting into 15 damage range. If you're doing a lightsaber, it could be even like 18 damage range, all off your leader flip. Um, yeah, so that's how you're setting up the flip turn. Again, typically you need about 3 upgrades for the flip turn. Um, the more you rummage, the more likely to find, the more likely you are to find important combo pieces. Things like power dark side, things like force throw, things like Anakin. Uh, and yeah, going forward, I think one of the big questions is, does this deck survive force throw? Absolutely it does. Does it look different? Yes. You know, but the idea of Kylo Red um, absolutely will endure past force throw. Doesn't mean we're running cards like Inferno 4 to go even further in deck velocity. Maybe cards like Luth and Rail. Maybe we build around, I want to hit 2, maybe 3 Sith Holocrons every game. What does that deck look like? It is a different deck. Maybe it has less control. Maybe it's more aggro. Maybe it's more mid range. There's a lot of room to design around this leader, but this is the direction we took. Um, that abuses a lot of the most powerful cards in the format, that have use up and down the curve to buy us time, to let us rummage, to fix our hands, to get to the insurmountable Kylo. We're not done yet, and that's true for after they ban Force Throw too. If they do, maybe they don't. Maybe we just ride out. Maybe we just ride this version into season 6 whenever everyone's playing spies and disclosing all the information. Uh, yeah, but that is the why deck is built this way. Upgrades, deck velocity, flexible removal, filling in all of our cost curves, and the power of the Kylo flip itself. Good luck. Have fun. May the force be with you.